So interesting to see the IRS make a strange house call. That was the title of the article by the Wall Street Journal on Matt Taibbi during his House testimony on Twitter and all of the bad things that the government has done. That is not a coincidence. It's just plain brazen and somewhat stupid. But even more brazen and stupid is the way they have handled me leaking information, which is totally illegal.
Okay, if you're having trouble following what he's saying, I totally understand it. I can barely follow, and I do this as a job. Basically, Donald Trump will take anything that's in the news and he will make it somehow about himself, even if it has nothing to do with that. And so we're gonna return to Donald Trump, but he was talking there about Matt Taibbi, and that's what we need to cover first. So just last month, Matt Taibbi was testifying before Congress about the Twitter files, back when that was a thing. And there was a Wall Street Journal editorial about how apparently, like Trump says in that video, the same day that he was testifying before Congress, IRS agents apparently showed up at his house in New Jersey. Okay, and so apparently the tax man that went there left a note instructing Mr. Taibbi to call the IRS 4 days later. Taibbi was told at a call with the agent that both his 2018 and 2021 tax returns had been rejected owing to concerns over identity theft, which might or might not be true. Either way, it does seem weird to have someone show up to your house about that. Is that really the first way they would try to contact you? In any event, he has since apparently provided the committee with documentation showing that his 2018 return had been electronically accepted at the time, so he'd have no reason at the time to believe that there was anything wrong. And he says the IRS never notified him or his accountants of a problem after he filed that return more than 4.5 years ago. He says the IRS initially rejected his 2021 return, which he later refiled, and it was rejected again, even though he says his accountants refiled it with an IRS provided PIN number. Okay, so that's apparently what has happened. Assuming that all of that is true, certainly a weird, suspicious little situation. It doesn't seem immediately to have much to do with Donald Trump though, does it? But don't worry, Donald Trump is gonna try to connect the two.
I had a done deal before running for president, they broke it. They treated me worse than they treated the Tea Party or the evangelicals. I could have easily made a very good deal with the IRS during my 4 years as president, but I thought it would be inappropriate to do so. Maybe a conflict of interest, I didn't want that. Besides, I already had a deal from before my presidency, a deal which they chose not to honor. So now I'm demanding the original deal without late changes in the rules and regulations, so that deal would be harder to make. Most people would say that after watching the Biden family take advantage of government, I should have made a deal during my term. To me, it was a conflict. I thought it was inappropriate, so I didn't do so. But this is the price you pay for being honest in the USA of today.
It does suck to see someone so just routinely honest being abused by the system as much as this. I'm gonna keep it real. I follow Trump a lot. I've been accused of having Trump derangement syndrome. So you'd think, and if anyone would know what he's talking about, it might be me, but I don't know what the hell that stuff about a deal is. It sounds sinister, I can say that. It sounds like he was close to doing some illegal stuff, but I guess he backed off of it, so that's good. Why you're like confessing to this in your weird little video, I don't necessarily understand. But before we get to discussion about that, I will remind you that while he is implying that the IRS is uniquely unfair to conservatives, that's why he listed the IRS, which again, he's misconstruing what actually happened. Evangelicals, they were unfair to Matt Taibbi or whatever. I guess they're unfair to him. Well, they were supposed to be auditing him during his presidency. He didn't do that. He had other issues during Melania's pregnancy.
Is he a person with a uterus?
I don't know. So anyway, he was setting up affairs during the pregnancy. So anyway, he didn't get an audit during the first 2 years, and only when the Democrats put pressure on the IRS to actually do something about it did they finally look into him. And we found out, as a result of that, why he might not have wanted to have been audited for so many years. He had foreign bank accounts while president. He paid $750 in US federal income taxes in 2017, which makes his 2020 payment of $0 seem like a lot. He reported no charitable contributions in his last year as president, despite promising to give away his annual presidential salary of $400,000. So conflicts of interest, which he says he wants to avoid, as well as avoiding his tax burden and lying about charity. If anything, the IRS did him a major solid by hiding all of this unethical and potentially illegal stuff for multiple years.
Okay, so I think I do understand what Trump is referring to and the deal he's referring to. I will try to be the Trump whisperer and explain it. But first, Taibbi. If IRS agents actually showed up to his house, that is super weird.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure I've ever heard of that. And so, but Taibbi's an enigma wrapped in a riddle, tied in a mystery, whatever that saying is. So I don't know. Is he not telling us further context to that? Like he didn't tell further context to the Twitter files? Yeah, unfortunately, it's possible these days. He used to be such a great reporter. So anyway, that's
maybe it just happened. The way he said, it's possible. If it did, it's weird.
It is weird. Okay, so and I'm not trying to hate on Taibbi. I don't think IRS should go to anybody's house. Okay, so now to Trump, which is a funnier and more interesting story. So he starts with a video on Taibbi, and he's like, "They went to Taibbi's house." Now back to me. Okay, I had to deal with the IRS before I got to be president, and then when I was pregnant / president, I could have done the deal, but I didn't do the deal. Hey, first, Donnie, no one has any idea what you're talking about. Like, it's amazing how much people live inside their own head. You know, people always say, "Oh yeah, Donald Trump's living rent-free inside your head." He's living rent-free inside his own head. He's like, the deal, I had the deal, everybody knows the deal, right? Okay, so no, so he cheated on his taxes forever. The IRS has been chasing him forever, and they've been, in my opinion, deeply incompetent, bureaucratic, and scared. Just, if he cheated on his taxes, say he cheated on his taxes, just get the son of a bitch already, okay? Should have done that a decade ago, well before he even ever ran for politics, because this isn't about politics. You don't get to cheat on your taxes. So, okay, they apparently were gonna do some deal, and they offered it, but he didn't want to take it when he was president. In other words, he thought, I might never have to pay this. I'm just gonna run for president again, I'll win again, I'll delay it for another 4 years. What am I gonna pay them $100 million now for, right? Even if I delayed 8 years, I saved so much money on interest, etc. You'd be a sucker to pay it if you could delay it. But now he's out of time, he's out of options. It's in my opinion, the IRS is apparently now finally coming for him, and so that's why since it's inside his head, he's like, as you know, with Taibbi, I had to deal with the IRS, and right now they're trying to take my money because I'm a lifelong tax cheat. But everybody knows if you're a right winger, you can cheat on taxes. And the right wing loves the elites, and I'm an elite, so they let me cheat, okay? So that's what that was about, and the guy's such a joker and he doesn't even realize it.
I'm an elite and you let me cheat is right up there with if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. Bravo, Jen. I also sort of wonder if first on Taibbi, if Taibbi got swatted somehow, or maybe like just somebody just showed up at his house just to frighten him because I didn't like the way he was gonna testify. Who knows? As far as Donald Trump, the thing that first jumps out at me, and is it feels like Donald Trump keeps losing more and more steam on his fastball, right? I mean, he's still got more, he'll lose more charisma than DeSantis will ever gain. But Donald Trump clearly seems to be slowing down right before our eyes. And that's pretty remarkable because I think the thing that carried him was, regardless of your political views, he was somewhat entertaining and he was charismatic when he was running in 2016. He doesn't seem funny anymore. He seems to have lost some of the charisma. And then as far as the deal, I would just be happy if, maybe we could make a deal with him. If he would say, look, I did not uphold the deal I made to protect and defend the Constitution. I'm willing to cut him some slack and say, yeah, maybe the IRS reneged on their deal with you, but you gotta come clean.
Can I ask, maybe this is a stupid question, but very brief, what deal? What is it like? We didn't get his taxes forever. What is this massive deal that he's supposedly doing?
So, John, we don't know the deal. That goes to David's point about how he's like losing touch with reality. So we know that he owed $100 million in taxes, and that's a lot of money to owe. Okay, even if he says he has $10 billion. Even if you have $10 billion, it's just ding on the 100 million. Who cares, right? Yeah. But no, he doesn't have 100 million. He's lost 2 different times. He lost over $400 million because he's the world's worst businessman. So apparently IRS offered some sort of deal to him saying, hey, we'll let you off the hook for, now I'm gonna make up numbers like 50 million or 35 and whatever the number was, right? Instead of the 100 million, that's why you make a deal. And sometimes they do that in order to settle something instead of fighting through it for a decade or 2 decades and never getting any of the money, right? So, but Trump is, to David's point, like so oblivious now and living on a different planet that he thinks everybody knows the deal.
Yeah.
And apparently the IRS has and offered him a deal that is not as good now. That's why he's saying, I'm demanding that we go back to the original deal. And he thinks that all of his fans are robots, and there's good reason to believe that.
Yeah.
And that they will all then go to the IRS and go, we want the original deal. We want the original. And then David Schuster will go and interview them and say, what's the original deal? They're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, they might just say, well, the original deal might have been in Donald Trump's mind to keep it all quiet, right? He calls the 800 number, just like we can all do, and say, hey, I owe $10,000, but I can't pay it back. Can we cut a deal and make it $7,000, spread it over 2 years? Oh, sure, the IRS will take that. Donald Trump called the 800 number, figured out, okay, yeah, maybe to your point, instead of $100 billion, I'll pay back 70 million. Here's how we're gonna do it. And everything's gonna be kept quiet. But then the courts got involved, and damn it, the courts ordered Congress to get those tax returns, and Donald Trump is mad that his secret was blown. Well, last I checked, even if the IRS wanted to go back to whatever original deal they made with Donald Trump, that's irrelevant because the courts have already said no. It's already, Congress gets this stuff.
Yeah.
But David, that's exactly right. And Donald Trump never understands any of that. He doesn't know how the government works at all. He was president for 4 years, never once bothered to ask an assistant, hey, wait, how does this work, right? So, but look, I'll end on this, and this is really important. The real deal for Donald Trump, and I think this is what he's holding in his back pocket. And by the way, also why he might have taken the classified documents. It relates to what a moron he is. But the deal is, he's eventually gonna go to all these prosecutors, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. And he's gonna, or maybe they'll offer it to him. You're not gonna go to prison, but part of the settlement for whether it's in Georgia or New York or the federal cases, you pay a penalty and you cannot run for office again.
Yeah.
Now, then everybody's a winner, right? Because the establishment doesn't want him to run, keep it real. We don't either, but for completely different reasons. We don't want to lose democracy, the establishment doesn't want to lose power, right? And so they're hitting him with every legal avenue that they had. Remember, they had all that stuff the whole time and they never chose to use it when he was giving trillions of dollars in tax cuts to the rich and corporations. They never used any of this material. Now they're using all the material at the same time. So the MAGA base is not completely wrong that there's a political element to this. They are wrong that he isn't a criminal. He's a lifelong criminal. He's broken so many laws and he's never been held accountable because he was part of the elites and he was funneling trillions of dollars in tax cuts to them, right?
Yeah.
But now they're trying to hold him accountable and Trump doesn't want to go to prison. That scares the living crap out of him. And so at the end of the day, in order to save face, what might happen, it was in a sense my original prediction when he was president, which is I'm gonna just take my ball and go home. Okay, as long as you guys leave me alone and don't put me in jail and don't further humiliate me, I'll go home. Now, I think that America would take that deal, but we'll see if I'm anywhere near right.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.